Welcome back to the Wicker Basket Homestead. I wanted to give an update on something I've been working on the last few months, and that is milk kefir, or I've heard it pronounced kefir. So really the concept of milk kefir is that you have a starter culture that seeds the bacteria and the yeast to ferment milk and then create a fermented drink, almost like a yogurt. So what you need to start with is milk kefir grains. So I've got that in here. So generally you can get these either from someone you know, or you can order them online, which is actually what I did. And some health food stores I know carry them, but basically you'll get usually about 2 tablespoons of grains. That's what they're called, is kefir grains. And it is a starter culture that is a mix of bacteria and yeast, as I said. And what you'll do is you'll put it into a jar of milk. I use regular whole milk from the store. It is we drink a lot of raw milk, and I tried doing raw milk once and it did not turn out well. So went back to using store-bought milk, which I think the big difference is it is pasteurized. So all of the beneficial bacteria that is in raw milk just competes with those grains and causes it not to turn out. So generally I'll fill up my jar with milk up to about here. I'll drop in the kefir grains, and I kind of have all the different stages here just to show you, but I'll just drop those in, do a real light stir, and then you let it sit on the counter. And generally what I found is somewhere around above 70 degrees for ambient temperature makes it ferment the fastest. And it'll usually take about a day on the counter just sitting there. And I know it seems kind of gross that you think that it's going to spoil the milk, but the bacteria basically outcompetes any of the other bacteria. The bacteria and the yeast from the kefir grains specifically outcompete any of the bad bacteria that would cause the milk to spoil. And you get a real tangy flavor, and it's very different from kefir that you would buy in a store. We used to drink that quite a bit, and that's actually done through a different process. But if you make like a milkshake or a smoothie out of the kefir, it'll kind of end up turning out to be similar to what you can get in the store. So this jar right here in the middle is a jar that I fermented. You can see a little bit here. It's kind of hard because it's humid here and this jar is sweating, but towards the top here, this is where most of the grains ended up. And then down here at the bottom, you can kind of see that is, I believe, where it's separated out from whey. So this would be almost similar to like making cheese, where you'd have curds and whey. And so what I'll do is, once it is fermented, I'll put it in the fridge. I think you could technically go ahead and use it right once it's done fermenting. I put it in because, again, I make smoothies. I tried drinking it straight and it was just not palatable for me personally. So I'll put it in the fridge for a day or so just to get it nice and cool. Then I'll pour it into my strainer here. And sorry, I gotta fix my frame. So I'll pour it in, and then I'll just go real slowly back and forth with the spatula here to get the grains out. And so this is, the lighting is, let me see if I can fix this a little bit. So this is what the grains look like. It's almost like a popcornish texture. And yeah, so like I said, that's a mix of bacteria and yeast. It's a culture similar to like a kombucha SCOBY, or even like a sourdough starter, similar concept. So yeah, I'll go ahead and drop this in and try not to let it splash, because I have heard that if you get milk up on like the rim of the jar, that part can actually spoil. And doing this with one hand while holding a camera is extremely challenging. But yeah, so Generally try not to let it splash. If it does, I will just wipe it with a paper towel before I use it. So this then is what is left, and it's hard to see, but it's kind of like a more liquidy yogurt is really the best way that I found to describe that. So I'll get the grains in here and I'll just mix it real nice and slowly. And then this is probably me being overly OCD and anal. I'll admit that I am sometimes like that. But once I'm done mixing it up, I'll usually top it off with a little bit of milk to get it above, this level when you're mixing it, basically however much it rises. I'll just put a little extra milk in it. And then I will often put a upside down coffee filter over the top just to keep like bugs and stuff out. You can also just put the lid on, and I guess technically you can screw it. So what I've read is if you leave it screwed, the lid screwed on tight, that it basically will cause this to almost get carbonated, similar to like a beverage. I believe the word is effervescence. I, for whatever reason, generally just prefer to do the coffee filter, let it breathe. I know that changing the amount of air that can get in can kind of change whether it's the bacteria or the yeast that's dominant. And also, if you leave it past, so kind of like this one where it's separating out a lot like that, this is longer than I would normally do. What I've read is that also then turns it to be more yeast dominant, and you can kind of play around to see what you prefer. If you're putting in a smoothie with some frozen fruit and honey, probably won't be able to taste the difference anyways. But yeah, so that is what I've been doing, and then I'll just let it sit on the counter for my understanding is 12 to 36 hours is the time frame, and that is dependent on your ambient temperature and then also the amount of grains. So you saw I had quite a few scoops of grains that I had put in there. When I got it, it started out as 2 tablespoons, and then over time it just continues to grow and create more, so that at this point I have way more than that, and so it goes faster. The problem is every so often you have to split it or use up some of the grains, and that's why I now have 2 jars going, because I had so many. I split it, and I'm actually going to be giving it to a friend so that they can give it a shot if they want to. So that's the milk kefir. It's supposedly really good for your gut microbiome. I think that makes a lot of sense based off of the research and the reading I've done. Like I said, I couldn't drink it straight, but put it into a smoothie with some frozen blueberries and strawberries, and I often put a scoop of strawberry protein powder in it, a little bit of honey, some cinnamon, and a little splash of vanilla extract, and myself, my toddler, and we eat it like crazy or drink it like crazy. It's really good that way. Obviously a little bit more carbohydrates than I think is optimal, but I'm willing to make that trade-off just because of the beneficial bacteria and what I believe it's doing for the gut microbiome. So if you have any questions, let me know. And if you've tried homemade kefir, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And I hope that this is something that helps someone out there. Talk to you later.